The Matrix is a green screen in your mind, imprinting programming to make you believe it's real. It's not. Break free. Join me, Patricia Cori, and my guests on Beyond the Matrix, where there is light, where you can dare to be free. Beyond the Matrix. Welcome to Beyond the Matrix, the program that demands that you think outside the box or you won't be able to put up with us. And today I have a very interesting person who got in touch with me, Dr. Jean Logan. I don't remember how we connected or reconnected, but we did. And I found her work very interesting. And I want to introduce, if you don't know her already, her work and her ideas and her vision and the wonderful work that she's doing to help the children. So here's a quick bio, and then I'll bring her on without much ado. I don't like to read bios, but this one is very interesting. Jean Logan is an ordained minister. She has a doctorate in holistic nutritional healing, and she's the director of Holy Ground Farm, Inc., a nonprofit that provides services to Indigenous children. She has an extensive knowledge of many types of energy healing. She's the author of Unlocking the Power of Glyphs, Sacred Symbols of Light, Symbols of the Dawn, and Sacred Symbol Healing Cards. But what I love about it is that all profits go to providing opportunities for needing children. The books are now in over 90 countries of the world, and there's also a translation of Unlocking the Power of Glyphs in Spanish for those of you who are always asking me, why is there nothing available in Spanish? A conscious channel for over 15 years, Jean Logan brings in powerful healing glyphs and symbols that have the ability to heal, transform, and enlighten. And she claims that this information comes from the highest spiritual source, and that the glyphs and symbols are language of light that are given to assist mankind, or I'd like to change that to humankind, at this pivotal time. So you know I'm all about sacred geometry and the power of that access for the DNA, for the cells, for the cellular memory, etc. So I just figured this was a great connection, and I am delighted to bring her on. Welcome. I'm going to call you not doctor. I'm going to call you Jean.
Good. Thank you. Thank you,
for being here, Jean.
Patricia.
So, where do we start? Let's start with, how it came about that however long ago you started working with bringing in these symbols. Obviously you channeled them, but how did you start finding that this was a tool for creating what I would imagine are templates of healing?
Well, I want to mention one thing, that I wasn't born with this intuitive gift. I was a very frightened child, scared of everything throughout my life. Fear controlled me. So I want to make that plain. But I was always a seeker. And I can remember saying, I want to be guided to be the most I can be and the highest I can go. And so I was meditating one day, and I saw like writing on a blackboard. And I thought it was telling me to try guided writing. So I went out and grabbed a notebook, went out on the deck, and I tried, but of course one page, just gibberish came through. But then finally, after a while, something was making sense. And I was told that there were beings who could help me with the stars, with astrology, and with herbs. And I said, well, can they help me with the stock market? And I said, well, if that's what you want. No, I was told yes, and that it'll help you. And which they did later on. It really was very successful. But anyway, after I started that, I practiced every day. I just kept on talking to my guides, whatever, and nature spirits and so forth. And then one day I was standing in the kitchen. I thought, well, I wonder if God will talk to me. And I heard very plainly, well, yes, I'll talk to you. And I thought, oh my God, God will talk to me. And so I ran and got my notebook, and I got one very simple but profound page, like you and I are one with all things. And it just went on very basic, and then it said, please understand, you must speak out. You cannot learn if you do not speak out. And then when you speak out, others learn. And this is, you know, and it was just one page, but it was really very impressive. And then where the glyphs came in, for some reason I was attracted to the thought of glyphs. I didn't know why, and I looked it up on the internet and didn't find a whole lot, maybe some Mayan glyphs, which didn't seem to do much. And then I received a glyph in the mail from someone. It was on an email, and it was about a little drawing. Let me explain what a glyph is in case there's somebody who doesn't know. It's a little simple drawing that has meaning to it. And in this case, it's a small drawing. It could mean a drawing on a cave in the Southwest. It could be on the pyramids in Egypt. It's just simply drawings that have meaning, or carvings that have meaning. And in this case, it's a small drawing on a piece of paper. So this picture looked like a centipede, and it had a little squiggly line around it, and it said that this glyph would remove parasites in our body that held fear in us, and that we were holding that since the days of Babylonia and Antarctica and Atlantis. And I thought, whoa, that was interesting, because fear was my big issue. And so I cut that, printed out, cut it out, and I must have been guided to put it on my solar plexus. And when I did, I felt this tremendous commotion going on in my liver. And I thought, whoa, what's, you know, whatever it is. After a while, it subsided. I thought, whatever it was, I had it, but I think it's gone. And so I asked my guides, whoever could give that much power to a drawing on a piece of paper, they can do that. You know, God has given us all this ability. So I was instructed on how to create what to do to decide what I wanted to do, to create a little picture and have a little ceremony. And so I thought, okay, I was a Catholic, candle prayer, ceremony, I know that, okay. And at first I didn't have much luck. And then a friend called me, and she had got a piece of broken glass in her foot that was there about 2 weeks. She had gotten the glass out, that it was badly infected. And she said, Jean, what can I do? I don't want to take antibiotics. And so I said, well, could we try a glyph? And I told her about it, and she said, okay. So I drew a glyph that would kill bacteria and another one that would speed the healing, and I emailed them to her. And she, next day she said, wow, they're working. She said, the pain is gone, the swelling is gone, and it was on its way to healing. And I thought, okay, now I'm on to something. And I realized then the reason I couldn't have any success with the ones I tried, like joy and energy, were because we're holding emotional baggage in us that's holding us back. So the first glyph I created was one to remove fear. I mean, the first glyph after that one. And so I tried it on my solar plexus, and I could feel stuff coming out of my breasts and coming out of my arms. And I thought, whoa, you know, I felt this is amazing. And then I created one for sadness, to remove heartache, to remove guilt. And every emotion that I could think of, I created a glyph to help remove. And I had no intention of doing anything but healing myself.
Were these, when you say you created them, were these downloaded information from a higher source?
I really am not sure. I got a reading from the woman who wrote that original glyph, Judith Moore. And she said she saw me, she saw me in a cavern in Peru, and I was sitting in front of some tablets. And she said I was getting these off these stone tablets.
Wow.
So I felt like I was doing them myself, that I was creating this idea, these pictures. but as time went by, and I would be given, like I wanted to do one for allergies because I had hay fever that was pretty bad. And immediately I was given an image of a spiral with an arrow in it. So after a while, I realized I was being given images.
It's pretty obvious to anyone who's listening to you that these are divine messages for them to have that kind of healing power. Obviously, you're working with some force. Whether that's your higher self or someone else, something you're channeling is not so important to me, and I'm probably not to you. But the fact that there is such a divine imprint in what you're creating, that it has this powerful healing impact, that's remarkable.
And as time went by, the ceremonies became more elaborate, where I empowered them, and I even had a chapel constructed on my land here. Over a vortex where I have them empowered. And at some point, amazingly enough, years later, just within maybe 2 years ago, Source said, you need to understand the electrical energy of the glyphs. And I said, okay, tell me, you know. And I was told that if we had the ceremony, the directive goes to the central sun, and the central sun sends down an electrical impulse that penetrates the glyph and stays with it as long as the glyph is in existence and undamaged. And so that was news to me within more than 10 years after I first started, although Judith Moore gave me a pretty good idea about who I was and why I was here. She gave me a very powerful reading.
It's interesting to make a brief correlation between the use of these glyphs that you're creating and the crop circles, which are activating people on so many levels. And I have been an avid crop circle researcher and participant since 24 years ago. Every year I've gone there. And the imprinting, a lot of people get, I'd like you to speak to that, the fact that a lot of people get healing, acceleration, just from looking at them. Being in them, of course, is a supercharge, but do you see a correlation between that phenomenon, which I feel an electrical pulse coming down on the earth, and then the magnetic waters under the earth mantle, because we find that these crop circles are coming up on aquifers all over England, where there's a very low, very high water level underneath the earth. So, you know, my source, which is the Syrian High Council, said it's electrical going in, which is why this has been triggered by what you said about electrical from the sun. Being printed down, and then the water, the magnet pulls it in, and boom, the crops go down. So I thought that was a very exciting elaboration of what's going on there. But back to your glyphs, how do you feel about that correlation between the crop circles and imprinting consciousness with sacred geometry?
Oh, I definitely feel. I even got a book, and I went to a talk by somebody, Secrets in the Field, I think it was the name of the book I had. And so I really was very fascinated by crop circles. But unfortunately for me, they were always in England, and again, fear was such a big issue that I don't travel. And so I never had an opportunity to go to a crop circle.
Oh, what is the fear based in? Have you ever gotten in touch with it in your work?
Oh yeah, well, I think I know where it started, but maybe I even came in with something. But I felt I know that one of my things that I wanted to learn in this lifetime was overcome that fear. And so even now, like I have a glyph to remove fear, and I find with the glyphs, I take like a double page, and I have them take them and put that next to my bed. And I had the one to remove fear. And I find that we always have a cycle, you know, there's a cycle when we first wake up, there's a time when we're half asleep and half awake. And I call that all channels are open. Okay. It's when we are most open. And I would grab, and this just happened within the last couple of years, I'd grab that page of glyphs, and I would lay there for a while, and I could feel stuff coming out of my abdomen and my legs. And for years, I have suffered with irritable bowel syndrome. And that'll tie you down, you know. And so after that happened a couple times, the irritable bowel syndrome left after years of dealing with that, years. And it's because it's emotional. The basis of most illnesses is emotional. And unless we work on solving the emotional issues, we never really can get better. We can heal the symptoms, we can take care of symptoms, but we need to let go of what's inside.
So tell us how the glyphs, and your understanding of this work, how they imprint the subconscious or the conscious in order to create that healing.
They literally draw stuff out. You can actually feel stuff. I mean, when you have emotional issues, you are holding something of substance inside of you. And what it literally does is extracts that, and it's replaced with light. There's one woman wrote me, she put a glyph for fear on her grandson before he went to bed. And he said, "Grandma, I can feel stuff coming out of me," he said.
Wow, isn't that wonderful?
Oh, it is. It can do so much to help the children, to help anyone. And pets, oh gosh, pets are the best because they have no expectations, no judgment, no skepticism. They're terrific.
So let's play, I don't like to use the term the devil's advocate, but let's say that the person who's listening is saying, what? How does this work? Why? Let's give some more some substance to help people understand the process. In other words, you channel, we now agree that it's channel. You channel, it looks like you ask for information for a given problem or emotional condition, right? And then it pours through you. How does that work?
It goes both ways. Sometimes, like I had a heart problem, and so I created the glyph for my heart problem. But there's other times where I will be told, you need to create a glyph, and then I'll be told what it's supposed to do. And like I didn't want to create one for diabetes because I feel like most diabetics is kind of self-induced, and I was told, no, you need to create a glyph for diabetes. And I was given the image, and I was told what to program. Every glyph has a programming statement. And I was told what it should say. It said there are some people who have diabetic markers, and they can be removed with a glyph.
What's a diabetic marker?
It means that they are more prone to it. Let's say, like in a hereditary case, like the father was a diabetic and the one before that, that would be an example of a program that can be removed.
So you're talking about these glyphs being used for physical illness and for emotional illness. And the first thing that comes to mind that I'd like to discuss is, so how, seeing this state of the world at the moment and the extreme, what we're seeing now is an irrational level of fear that doesn't correspond to the problem. So the problem is here, the fear level is 1,000 times above the response that should be, if there is a should, related to that problem, right? The irrational hysterical fear, which then leads to anger, rage, and all these other horrific emotions.
Right.
What do you have to say about your work and how possibly that could impact what's happening in the mass population right now, if it could?
Well, you can use the glyphs to impact others. And that probably should be one that I should have hanging outside to let it go out. I do have the glyph to remove fear available free on my website because I think fear is the biggest destroyer. And so people need that. On the other hand, we're being programmed with a lot of stuff to create fear. Fear is used as a tool.
Absolutely.
To manipulate us.
Would it be effective using a glyph on a piece of technology? Would it be something that would, because I'm not understanding how they really are, how they work. I mean, are they working with the psychological subconscious level of the person that's working with them, or consciously? I'm still not able to imagine it, but my question is, could these glyphs actually be used, pasted on a piece of technology to reduce the impact of, let's say, subliminal messaging, for example? Or are they directly necessary to work directly with the biological being in question?
Yeah, they work with the being. When people want to sit and watch TV, I don't have a TV. I haven't had one for years. I wouldn't have one in the house.
Me either.
But people, we all have choices, and they make our choices. We live and die by the choices we make. And so now, as far as they're a glyph affecting something other than humans or animals, I did create one trying to repair a piece of equipment. Still haven't had results with that yet, because we know we have the ability to manipulate molecules. But right now, the humans and the animals, people say, well, do you have to believe in it for it to work? Well, it wouldn't. The dogs don't believe in anything. We put it on a dog and he gets healed. So that it's definitely not just believing in something.
That's a pretty big statement to make, that you put a glyph on an animal and it gets instantly healed. Do you have
Oh yeah, what is so great is you could heal things with a glyph that you couldn't with any. Like for example, one woman contacted me. She had a half bulldog pit bull, and it was only 2 years old, and it was having seizures. And of course, they went to the vet and all the tests, and then the vet gives them a prescription, which is really just something to calm them down. They really have no answer. And so I told her what glyphs to use. And then you can use a surrogate, and she did. She used a teddy bear because the dog had tremors so bad she couldn't put glyphs on him. And so I told her, put the, and I have a drawing in the books to show where the chakras are on the animals. And I said, put a glyph on the crown chakra to heal the damaged brain. Put one on, and with an animal, this is important, to remove vaccinations. Vaccinations are all damaging. I said, remove the vaccinations, and then on the solar plexus, and then I had one to neurological healing, and one to remove toxic matter, because with animals, it can be the same as with people. When Alzheimer's, there may be a connection there with aluminum. The same can happen with animals, because there can be aluminum in their dog food. So she put that on, and she contacted me. She waited 2 months to contact me because she wanted to make sure that he was healed. She said the seizures and the tremors stopped right away. And 2 months later, she contacted me, and she said he has been 2 months seizure free. And she said now the whole family sleeps well. She realized that she would wake up at night wanting to go massage him to help him to keep from getting seizures. But this happens a lot. Yeah, there's no doubt with animals. I have on my website all kinds of testimonials, and I love working with the animals.
All right, so right now that people are so freaked out about vaccines, and the question of forced vaccines is becoming predominant in our imminent reality, it's a pretty big claim to say that you could pull the vaccines out of the body. I'd like you to elaborate on that, please. How does it work? What is the essence of how this works and what this does?
Well, I'm counting on I just say I have to, like I said, there's a program, and I just have in the program extract any vaccinations, and I also have a program to heal any damage. Now, I don't know how far it would go healing damage. You've seen some that are really seriously damaged, and I don't really know. There's one young man I'm working with who got Epstein-Barr virus from a vaccination. And I do what's called the spiritual investigation. And I ask what is the cause? What did we do? Exactly. And he was paralyzed from the neck down. So I use with people like that, I use a surrogate that's like a piece of paper where I put the name of the person, I put what their problem is, and then I put what glyphs I'm using on there and when, and I put the date so that I keep working on him. And he's at the point now, a year later, where he can walk with assistance and he can move his arms, but he can't control them well enough to feed himself. So it's going to take a lot of work yet. It got to the point where he was in a lot, the glyphs sometimes would be so powerful that he was having a lot of problems. So I backed off and I realized I just need to program it to do with ease and grace. And if there's any pain, stop what you're doing. Because the glyphs, everything has consciousness. Everything has consciousness. And as I tell people who work with them, this is your team. This is your team. Tell your team what you want it to do. It's already told what it should do as far as the glyph is. But tell it to do it with ease and grace, or to stop if there's any pain. Because if you have a serious illness like emphysema, one woman had emphysema. She smoked for 40 years. And so she took 5 glyphs. I tell them, when you get them, don't use more than 2, but she used 5 right on her solar plexus for the lungs and the heart and whatever. And after she meditated, and after 15 minutes, she was in intense pain. And she took the glyphs off, and after 15 minutes, the pain went away. So there's no doubt they're powerful. Sometimes you have to just work with them a little bit. Oftentimes people say, I used it for 5 minutes and I had to take it off. And then after a while, they could wear it longer. So there's a lot of different things that every case is different too.
So you are saying that basically there's nothing that, what it sounds like you're saying is there's nothing that can't be healed with these glyphs.
I would have to say almost nothing. I wouldn't say nothing. There are some things that are more difficult. Nerves heal easily. Emotions are healing easily with the glyphs. Soft tissue takes a little bit longer. Bones take the longest, and teeth probably would be the hardest thing. And again, we're in 3D reality, and what is hard to us, you know, when it has a hard surface. But nerves and tissue, you can heal a damaged heart. I healed my heart.
But you haven't healed your fear.
Not complete. I had so much that I still work on it. I don't think anybody ever lets go of, you know, that quickly. You've got to realize we have layers and layers. It's like the old red onion. And you can't just jump in and dive in and pull out the middle. And then we've had hundreds of lifetimes. Do we bring in stuff from other lifetimes? A lot of people would swear that we do.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so it takes time. It takes time.
What is your best success of all the work that you've done with people in the process of helping them heal through these glyphs?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'll have to say this is one. We had a dog we got at the Humane Society. Jessie was 30 pounds of mischief, and she would get car sick every time. Every time we would go down the hill, she would get car sick. And so I tried a few on my own, and they weren't too successful. And so finally I asked Source, I said, what can I do? How can I heal this dog? And I was told that she had brain damage from starvation and dehydration as a puppy. And that I could fix the part of her brain that was damaged with a glyph. And I was told what to put as a programming statement. And so we put it on with her. We put it right on her before she went to bed at night, and we put it up on her crown chakra. And she kind of rolled her eyes like she could feel something going on. And we put it on every night for 2 weeks. She had no problem with it. She was about 90% better. We did it another 2 weeks. She never got car sick again. So then I realized we could heal the damaged brain with the glyph. We could heal a damaged brain. So I rewrote the glyph. to heal this part of the brain, and if not, then go to the next part of the brain. And I took every little section of the brain, and it's like a programming statement. And that's what helped with the seizures. And that's what helped with the, that is such a powerful one. And also it helps with dementia and Alzheimer's. And like one woman, she said her 89-year-old father had Alzheimer's, and she put the glyph, she just put that one. I would have recommended more if she had contacted me sooner. She put the one to heal the damaged brain, and it really helped him, and he liked it. Most old people are not, you know, open to this. But before he'd go to bed, he said, put my glyphs on me. So it was, I have so many favorite stories.
He was healed of Alzheimer's?
I can't say he was, she only wrote me one time, and she said he had really improved. There was significant approval. I never heard from her again. I've got so many people that I can't, you know, keep up with them unless they contact me and tell me. Now, I had one woman, she was really good about contacting me, and she had, her father had leukemia, and he was in the hospital. He had a collapsed lung. And so she said she used the glyph for the lung on a surrogate. And they were going to try it. They said they had to try to inflate the lung, and it was so risky, they said he needed to get his affairs in order. But she put that glyph on, and she said 38 hours later, when they were ready, they were going to go do surgery, they took another ultrasound, and the glyph had healed. I mean, the lung had inflated again, and she got pictures. And she asked the doctor if she could get a copy of the ultrasound, and she did, which is great. That's you know, you can see the difference. So sometimes these blow me away, and I can't. Sometimes I think the people tell me a story, and I thought, wow.
There's two possibilities. One is that people buy these glyphs and work with them on their own, and the other is they can come to you for consultations.
Yes, right. They do arrange. Sometimes they do arrange consultations.
So you
yes.
Talk to someone, and they tell you what their symptoms are, and then you psychically pick up what you feel they need, and then you work with the glyphs through a surrogate. Is that the way it works?
No. Well, the one thing I want to teach people is how to heal themselves. And I will, like, sometimes they'll just write me and say, what glyph should I use? And I say, okay, I want you to look at the table of contents, and you pick out a couple you think you need, write me back, tell me what you picked, and I'll tell you if they're right. I try to get away from letting people use me as a crutch. These are really self-help books to some extent, and I give them all as much as I can. There's instructions in the books, how to use it, where to put it. And so, but I always tell them, even if they get digital books, print out all the table of contents and read them. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes they call me, they contact me, have you got one for the eyes? Well, it says right in there, you know. So I try to get people self-sufficient. But when they do have a consultation, then I help them pick out which glyphs to use. But I rarely use what I was showing you before. His mother was just unable. She was trying to work 2 to 3 jobs to pay for his care. And that, you know, so I went ahead and I did it myself. Sometimes I'll set up a surrogate myself. Or if a person doesn't really believe it, I've got a son-in-law who has stage 4 lung cancer, and I set up one for him because he's not he's half interested, but a lot of people, they're just not at that space where they can help themselves.
But wouldn't you agree that you have to want to be healed to be healed?
Yes, absolutely.
So how does that work?
Well, a lot of people want to be healed, but they don't know how to go about it. And if somebody, I always say, I don't bother with people who aren't interested. And there's a lot of people, I'm sure you met them yourself, who wear their disease like a badge, you know, of honor. You meet them 10 minutes later, they're telling you what's wrong with them. Mm-hmm. So he certainly wanted to live. He definitely wants to live. But if I felt they didn't care, when people aren't interested, I let it go. You let it go, because that shows they don't really, they're ready, maybe ready to go. But I try to avoid, I never approach anybody about anything.
Yeah, because in a way, I'm
I
sure
have-
you'll agree that's interfering with their karma. It's a
Well,
delicate
yeah,
balance,
but
that one, isn't it?
yeah, it's a waste of time, and I let, if people come to me, that's fine. But you know, I have a neighbor who's has colon cancer, and one of the other neighbors says, "Why don't you go and talk to him about your glyphs?" I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm not going to do that.
We've talked a lot about physical ailments, but what about the emotional, which so many people are in such deep trauma?
Well, my first book that I got printed was all emotional, almost all emotional, healing with all the different emotional things. And I didn't really intend to go on further than that, but I kind of just had a life of its own. But I tell people, I get on a lot of shows and I just say, you need to work on the emotional thing. It's fine if you've got a problem with your heart, use the glyph for the heart, but work on why is that problem there? Why are you drawing this problem into your life, and you need to work on it. Like high blood pressure. People say, do you have a glyph for high blood pressure? High blood pressure is emotional. It starts with the emotions. First you need, and usually you're holding anger inside you, and it's like a tea kettle or a pressure cooker, and that anger is percolating there. And then you can know the blood pressure goes up. And then after you get to understand that, then work on your diet and exercise. But diet and exercise alone will not do it unless you work on what's eating you up inside.
I mean, that's anytime anybody's, not only anger, but when you suppress energy, you know,
right.
It's a pressure cooker waiting to blow. I mean, I think it's surprising
Right.
that a lot of people don't realize when they don't, you know, like men who never cry. And I say men,
absolutely.
but of course there are people who never cry, but men have seemed in our generations to have to be stoic and not cry. And a friend of mine is classic case. He's British, he never cries, he's British, you know, upper lip and all that. And his blood pressure's all over the road, and he can't figure out, you know, he said, I'm eating better, I'm doing the exercise. I go, yeah, but it's this, you know, 70 years of not crying issue. And he said, oh, well, I'm British, you know, we don't cry. And I thought, you know, well, okay, maybe you should try it. One of the things that I've run into as a healer, and I've been a healer for 40 years, was that, so I'm not doing it anymore, but I was a psychic healer, and I would be using psychic information coming from the body, telling me what was wrong. And sometimes people would lie down on my massage table, and I would say, are you using Prozac or any number of medications? Yes. And I would say, you need to sit up. What do you mean? I can't work on you. Why not? Because the Prozac says I'm not ready to deal with my problem, so I'm medicating so I don't have to face it. And you're coming to a psychic healer working with subtle energies, trying to move the energy, but the barrier is this rubber wall of the drug. Can you speak to that in your experience?
We know the prescription drugs are all bad news, okay? But I don't want to tell anybody stop, you know, because that could be a problem if it's maybe they're addicted to it. So, but I try to just back away and let them be. Like there's people who, I have a glyph for malignancy and people are using it for breast cancer and stuff, but they still want to go to radiation therapy. And so, you know, okay, I can't say, well, don't do it, you know, and I won't say don't use the glyphs. Once the people buy the book, they've got the glyphs. I say, do what you want to do. There is no wrong way to use them. But it's better if they could just use the glyphs or find, I tell them it goes with any other alternative form of healing. I think they're all good. If they want to use flower essences at the same time, that's fine. Whatever works. But if they're on prescription drugs, I'm not working with them. I'm not. I do get in reading. I mean, I do get a vision right away. I'll know they've got a lot of sadness in them, or they've got heartache, or I mean, sometimes I can feel it so bad that it almost brings tears to my eyes. But I won't tell them not to use what they're using.
No, I was never telling them not to use them. I was telling them that I couldn't work on them.
You couldn't work with them,
because
right?
I couldn't get through the barrier of the drug.
Right.
Because the drug was
Right.
saying, I'm not ready to face my stuff.
Right.
I mean, if
I
you're
agree.
taking I don't even know the names of them anymore, but let's use Prozac as an example. Basically, it's I can't deal with my stuff, so I'm being medicated so I don't have to deal with my stuff. And it's almost like putting it on hold. When I'm ready, I'll deal with my stuff. But right now I'm going to medicate it so I don't have to deal with it. So that's a real contradiction to coming to a psychic healer and saying, fix me, I need help. Right. But in your case, for example, do you have a glyph for people that have addiction?
No, what I tell them, the addiction is all emotional issues. Yeah, just I said keep going. Use a couple of them one night and a couple of them the next night, and keep on doing it, going through that, because addiction. Another one is weight. Have I got a glyph that will help them lose weight? And that's the same thing. They need to just start using these emotional healings when they're eating. When people are overeating and they have a weight problem, they're searching for solace. There's something. There's some unhappiness in there, and they're eating to satisfy that unhappiness, that empty spot in them. And they eat, and then they feel better when they eat, but then when the food wears off, then they're right back where they start again.
No, they feel better and then they feel guilty.
Right. Right.
Cycle. I know, I'm a victim of that one. You know, it's like comfort food, and then why did I do it? And this cycle.
Oh yes.
Just give me I always counsel people, like, look, eat the damn pecan pie and enjoy it, and then tomorrow you start fresh. But don't eat it and beat yourself up and get on that wheel of unresolved emotion.
I'm that way with chocolate. I love my little piece of chocolate. And so I was having a joint issues, a lot of inflammation, and I was told that the chocolate was, and I said, I want a little piece of chocolate. I have to have with my cup of tea.
I really believe that there's nothing that you can put in your body except for heroin and hardcore, horrific drugs that a little bit of is going to create a lot of damage. Especially when you have the presence to say, okay, I'm going to just have, because some people will eat the freaking giant Snickers bar, but you know, just to have a bit, that is, should be a beautiful rule to live by, that you can taste and enjoy something. And I'm not even only talking about food, to enjoy a glass of wine, to enjoy a piece of chocolate, but not become addicted to the need for it. I think that that's part of being a three-dimensional human, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I don't know if you ever read the Seth material. You remember Seth Speaks?
Right.
Okay, great. So when Jane Roberts channeled Seth, and he said, classic recall for me, he said, you're all so eager to ascend to the higher dimensions. Well, I got news for you. What I wouldn't give to have another glass of Chianti and, you know, have a delicious steak and fried potatoes and make love with a beautiful woman. And I thought, what a wonderful lesson for us to remember that, you know, by the time we stop beating ourselves up for all the things we're not supposed to do, we've missed the point completely. That enjoying what, like I said, you're gonna have the pecan pie, have it, enjoy it, so that it, whatever negative qualities it has, the sugar overload or whatever, your mind is saying, well, I enjoyed it. And that washes out a lot of the negative impact of these things. Because, you know, in the end, there is no greater healer than the mind.
Yes, yes.
And, you know, glyph or no glyph or any other healing modality, in the end, we cannot deny that believing the glyphs are effective is a very large part of their efficacy. And so I'm sure that your experience also includes that you said that people don't have to believe it for it to work, but certainly believing it, embracing it, also amplifies the power of it.
You know, on the opposite end, skepticism, doubts, and that can really interfere. Everything puts out an energy. And when a person is skeptical and they really don't think it's going to work, then it's not, that puts out like a shield, like a barrier.
It's just breaks on no. So
right.
It's old. It's like, this is my preconceived idea about reality. Skepticism would be. So it's like breaks. So if you bring in anything, any kind of cure, any kind of idea to the skeptic, it's just like, this does not fit in my concept of reality. So there's no dynamic interplay between the person being healed or seeking healing or not, and the vehicle, which would be the glyphs or even the higher source that brings them through. It's blocked by skepticism, preconceived belief system. That it's just like, you know, whenever I see a really skeptical person, it's like somebody's in the sand with their heels dug into the sand, and that's it. No movement, no flow, right?
Right. What I do, I just back off and leave them be.
Yeah, it's so important. And I've been saying this to people also with the dynamic that is going on now. And I'm trying to speak as much to people as possible about all the things we're going through. And people say, Patricia, when I try to say these things, I lose people. They're just adamant. And I say, lose them. Let them go.
Right.
Your job is not to convince anyone. Your job is to share what you know. And if that is greeted by the heels in the sand animosity, just walk away.
If you have someone like it's a family member, then you just have to, when you're with them, some subjects you just don't approach. You just talk about the weather and food and whatever.
Yeah, but the problem with that idea is that everybody's in such a crisis right now, and people need guidance and help. They don't know where to turn. So it's not like the old days where you argued about Ronald Reagan or not, and then got on with Thanksgiving dinner. Now it's existential crisis. Everybody's in an existential crisis looking for answers. And so it's a real dance to determine how much you can try to express, hoping that someone can embrace what you're trying to share versus the war of ideology. Let's slip off to a new track, which is, can you tell us about the Holy Ground Farm and what you're doing there?
The actual physical farm, I live on about 103 acres of land here in the mountains of North Carolina. And then there's 58 acres across the road that we donated to the nonprofit. And in my mind, I see this big building and I see children. I mean, I've seen this right from the start. There's children running around. And I thought, who are these children? Are they American children? Are they foreigners? Are we healing them? Are we teaching them? And so the slowly, and there was no doubt we were supposed to be here on this land. I mean, the way we got it was almost miraculous.
How wonderful.
And there was a hurricane came and it tore down a bunch of trees. And so the neighbor who drives the bulldozer, he said, tell you what, I'll put some roads in there. And if you let me harvest those trees that are down. You know, there were things that just came into being that, you know, my dogs I could not take them for a walk without having them on a leash. 100 acres of land and they want to run off. And so I had a 1 acre fenced in and a camper there so I could take them up and they could run. So I have a little campground now and a little outhouse and his primitive camping, but there's no activity going on except I do have like drummings and we have gatherings and people hiking and something, but the work with children I do, I was working with, helping a friend contacted me and got us to go down to Peru, and we're helping with some children down there. And then I was guided to work with some children in Nepal, and I didn't go there myself. I sent my son, because I'm not much of a traveler, to check out the orphanages in Nepal. And so for many years I was supporting a couple of orphanages, and then remote schools. We paid for the teacher's salary and for children to have some lunch. And now I'm still working with one of the orphanages, and the children we started out with are now going to college. So we're paying their tuition in college.
Oh, how beautiful. Thank you for that work.
Nothing has material. I just kind of have trust in spirit. The land has not suddenly, and I was told something would happen there, but I needed to be patient that right now the situation was not a good idea to start something.
Definitely.
Because things were, yeah, we have so much going on that's really, and then the government controls are just, you know, so. So I don't worry about it. I just keep helping out these families in Nepal. It's kind of fun because well, you can get on Facebook and you can actually talk to them and have a video. It doesn't cost anything, so it's kind of fun with the children. You can see the children.
I have to ask you, because from the minute I've seen you, I'm getting all this Native American vibe from you. Do you have roots in Native American origins? Or is it just
no?
I'm saying
That's interesting. You're the second. Just someone said that the other day. I'm sure I have past lives as an Indian. I'm absolutely no doubt, because I had a neighbor who was a painter, and he was painting these Indian paintings, and the woman that was his wife. All of a sudden, I knew, it was just a knowingness. You know what I'm saying? Just a knowingness that he was an Indian chief. The woman who was his wife was his daughter, and I was her friend. That was all I knew. It was just all of a sudden I knew where, well, you know, and so he came and gave me a print of one of his paintings. I liked it so well that I bought the original of an Indian woman with her. It was just really impressive.
Well, you know, I can tell you that psychically I've been picking up this up from the beginning, and I just had to ask. And I think
the land I'm on,
it's also got to do with why you've gotten that land.
Right, right. Oh, there was no doubt. I'm supposed to be on this land.
Yeah, but I mean,
there's a lot of
that Native American connection is part of the reason why you're on the. I just sharing with you a psychic hit that I had to share.
And there's a lot of spiritual phenomena here on the land, a lot of really amazing stuff. And I keep asking Source, when will I be able to get to see some of this? There's supposed to be a Stargate here. And there was someone came to visit who could see other dimensions and told us what it looked like and so forth. And I thought, well, when will we be able to get to see this? And I was told, be patient.
Be patient. The golden words, be patient, any minute now.
Yes.
I'd love for you to, as we wind up this conversation, I'd love to ask you, what is an overriding message you'd love to share with the people that have been introduced to you today and your work?
Believe in your power. We are such powerful beings that we need to believe in our power and let go of what's holding us back. We have so much power. And you know, I asked Source once, can I do such and such? And I was told, you could fly if you wanted to.
I love that. Would you like to show us a couple of glyphs before we say goodbye?
Well, can I show you the books? I'll show you the glyphs.
Yeah, well, show us the glyphs first, and then you'll show us the books, and we'll tell everybody how to
what we're doing now. We are doing this on Zoom. I had my fourth book, and I asked Source, is there any glyph in there before it goes to the printer that should not be there? And I was told, yes, the one to repel mice would not work. And I thought that was an important glyph because we got to stop killing them with chemicals.
Yeah.
And he said, I said, that's a habit of call. that it would take the energy of 10 to 20 people in the empowerment ceremony. And so that's when I started to get on Zoom, and I invited all the people. I've got an email list of over 5,000, and I said, who would like to help me empower? And so we empowered that, and I was told, go ahead and have them empower all of them. So every 2 weeks, we print out 12 of them, and I have a group on Zoom, and we re-empower them, because the more people that empower the glyphs, the stronger they become.
It's really fascinating.
It takes that human energy. And so, but when I use them, I actually, the book has pages of 16 of the glyphs that you use in different ways, put under your feet, different ways that you can use them.
It's starting to get real dark in your room. So
yes, I know it's getting darker. Yeah, is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
So this is the first book or the new book?
This is the first book,
Okay.
Unlocking the Power of
Glyphs.
This is in its third printing now.
Great.
And then the second one, Sacred Symbols
Beautiful, beautiful design.
of Light. Mm-hmm. This is the third one. And the fourth one is at the printers.
Beautiful.
It's being printed right now. The ebook is available. My site is Dr. Jean Logan. That's DRJEANLOGAM.com.
And there people can find out about how to get the books and how to support your charities and all of that.
Yeah, and they're on Amazon. They're all, if they even just put my name on Amazon, Jean Logan, they'll all come up.
Okay.
Right. And I think
Great,
Barnes and Noble.
Thank you for giving us your time and for sharing this information. And I'm sure you've titillated a lot of people to come and see what it's all about. And congratulations on your new book. I can't wait to hear how that works out.
Thank you so much. Well, I think I really have enjoyed this, and I appreciate this opportunity. And I want to send my love out to everybody.
Thank you. And I'll send our love and my love back out to you. So
Right.
take care of that land, and thank you for being a guardian on so many levels. Many blessings to you.
Thank you. Blessings to you as well.
Okay, everybody, you've been listening to Beyond the Matrix. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for listening to Dr. Jean Logan. I'll be curious to see your comments, and we will see you next time. This is Patricia Cori, signing out.